As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. It is likely the most life-changing book one can read. This book was first written in 1910. My copy is nice little pocket size, take with you, just literally put in your back pocket, bring it out whenever you'd like. Mind is the master power that molds and makes, and man is mind, and evermore he takes, the tool of thought, and shaping what he wills, brings forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret, and it comes to pass. Environment is but his looking glass. What you conceive in your mind, what you feel in your heart, a lot of people believe then transpires into your world around you. Your thoughts create seeds in the external world that then bear fruit. As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. Not only embraces the whole of a man's being, but is so comprehensive as to reach out to every condition and circumstance of his life. A man is literally what he thinks, his character being the complete sum of all his thoughts. As the plant springs from and could not be without the seed, so every act of a man springs from the hidden seeds of thought and could not have appeared without them. This applies equally to those acts called spontaneous and unpremeditated, as to those which are deliberately executed. Act is the blossom of thought, and joy and suffering are its fruits. Thus does a man garner in the sweet and bitter fruitage of his own husbandry. Isn't the language just magical? That old, somewhat old proper English that not many people really hear frequently. It's just so beautiful. Thought in the mind hath made us what we are. By thought it was wrought and built. If a man's mind hath evil thoughts, pain comes on him as comes. The wheel the ox behind, if one endure, and purity of thought, joy follows him, as his own shadow sure. Kind of a riddle, right? Man is a growth by law, and not a creation of artifice, and cause and effect is as absolute and undeviating in the hidden realm of thought as in the world of visible and material things. Noble and godlike character is not a thing of favor or chance, but is the natural result of continued effort and right thinking, the effect of long cherished association with godlike thoughts. An ignoble and bestial character, by the same process, is the result of continued harboring of groveling thoughts. Man is made or unmade by himself. Yes, we alone are our masters to almost any end, right? I believe personally that there are certain circumstances in the world that can gain a stranglehold on you, no matter your thoughts, but that's just my personal belief. Maybe one day I'll reach a point where I believe that no matter the circumstance, one's mind can be the ultimate key to end suffering, but I don't know that I'm there yet. Are you? Are you there? Man is made or unmade by himself. In the armory of thought, he forges the weapons by which he destroys himself. He also fashions the tools with which he builds for himself heavenly mansions of joy and strength and peace. It's powerful, right? We build our own mansions of joy, strength, and peace. By the right choice and true application of thought, man ascends to the divine perfection. By the abuse and wrong application of thought, he descends below the level of the beast. Between these two extremes are all the grades of character, and man is their maker and master. Of all the beautiful truths pertaining to the soul which have been restored and brought to light in this age, none is more gladdening or fruitful of divine promise and confidence than this, that man is the master of thought, the molder of character, and the maker and shaper of condition, environment, and ultimately destiny. As a being of power, intelligence, and love, the lord of his own thoughts, man holds the key to every situation and contains within himself the transforming and regenerative agency by which he may make himself what he wills. If you will a certain aspect of yourself to exist, it shall. Yes. If you will a certain element of your being to not exist any longer, if you put thoughtful energy and devotion into squashing it, you can squash it. A man is always the master, even in his weakest and most abandoned state. But in his weakness and degradation, he is the foolish master who misgoverns his household. When he begins to reflect upon his condition and to search diligently for the law upon which his being is established, he then becomes the wise master, directing his energies with intelligence and fashioning his thoughts to fruitful issues. So much talk of fruit makes me want to eat some watermelon. Such is the conscious master, and man can only thus become by discovering within himself the laws of thought, which discovery is totally a matter of application, self-analysis, and experience. Only by such searching and mining are gold and diamonds obtained, and man can find every truth connected with his being if he will dig deep into the mine of his soul. And that he is the maker of his character and molder of his life, the builder of his destiny, he may unerringly prove if he will watch, control, and alter his thoughts, tracing their effects upon himself, upon others, and upon his life and circumstances, linking cause and effect by patient practice and investigation, and utilizing his every experience, even to the most trivial everyday occurrence, as a means of obtaining that knowledge of himself which is understanding, wisdom, and power. In this direction, as in no other, is the law absolute, that he that seeketh findeth, and to him that knocketh it shall be opened. For only by patience, practice, and ceaseless importunity can a man enter the door of the temple of knowledge. Knock, and the door shall be opened. I want to believe that's true. Let us believe that's true and walk in faith that that's true. It's the only option. Otherwise, we must acquiesce to complete and utter potential defeat, right? No matter how hard we try. And I'm not willing to go there. Don't let yourself go there either. I implore you. Effective thought on circumstances. A man's mind may be likened to a garden. A man's mind may be likened to a garden, which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild. But whether cultivated or neglected, it must and will bring forth. If no useful seeds are put into it, then an abundance of useless weeds will fall therein, and will continue to produce their kind. Now here is an interesting point, because as a person who is like really interested in foraging, I can tell you, and you probably know this as well, that many so-called weeds, I'm just, floating along this analogy, drawing a parallel with the analogy, many so-called weeds are actually very useful, like plantain, for instance. It's a weed, but technically if you pick it and apply it to a mosquito bite, it's a salve, it's a drawing salve. It will draw out the swelling from the mosquito bite. It is useful. So, I know the point that he's trying to make, but is there also a parallel that if we don't control our thoughts, perhaps some of the thoughts that just enter our mind, like the weeds, do have a purpose in and of themselves? Something to ponder. I don't quite know, but I do know that so-called weeds, actually some of them do have quite useful purposes. Pineapple weed's another one. It's a member of the chamomile family, and you can make a relaxing tea from it, for instance. Just as a gardener cultivates his plot, keeping it free from weeds and growing the flowers and fruits which he requires, so may a man tend the garden of his mind, weeding out all the wrong, useless, and impure thoughts, and cultivating towards perfection the flowers and fruits of right, useful, and pure thoughts. By pursuing this process, a man sooner or later discovers that he is the master gardener of his soul, the director of his life. He also reveals within himself the laws of thought and understands with ever-ceasing accuracy how the thought forces and mind elements operate in the shaping of his character, circumstances, and destiny. 3 repeated words, right? Character, circumstances, destiny. Right. Within, character, circumstances, our external environment, destiny, what will be. Thought and character are one, and as character can only manifest and discover itself through environment and circumstance, the outer conditions of a person's life will always be found to be harmoniously related to his inner state. Yeah, have you heard that if one lives in a cluttered and chaotic environment, this is again me drawing a parallel, if one lives in a cluttered and chaotic environment, it's often difficult to have clear and guided thoughts. That environment affecting then the internal world. And also one might believe that if one lives in a cluttered and inharmonious environment, that internally one might be dealing with certain aspects of clutter, internal clutter. Something to ponder as well. This does not mean that a man's circumstances at any given time are an indication of his entire character, but that those circumstances are so intimately connected with some vital thought element within himself that for the time being, they are indispensable to his development. Development, keyword. Every man is where he is by the law of his being. The thoughts which he has built into his character have brought him there, and in the arrangement of his life there is no element of chance. None. Zero. But all is the result of a law which cannot err. It's infallible. This is just as true as those who feel out of harmony with their surroundings as of those who are contented with them. As a progressive and evolving being, man is where he is that he may learn, that he may grow. And as he learns the spiritual lessons which any circumstance contains for him, it passes away and gives place to other circumstances. In an ideal world. In an ideal world, at least to my little simple human brain, in an ideal world, after you deal with one trial, does it then dissolve so you can move on to the next? Perhaps it's bigger than our brains can even see. Perhaps it's bigger than our souls can even observe. But sometimes it does feel, honestly, that one can endure trial after trial of the same nature and not move past it. Oh, I don't mean to be a negative Nancy, but that's my own perspective. What do you think? Again, please let me know. Man is buffeted by circumstances so long as he believes himself to be the creator of outside conditions. But when he realizes that he has a creative power and that he may command the hidden soil and seeds of his being, out of which circumstances grow, he then becomes the rightful master of himself. That circumstances grow out of every thought. Man knows who has for any length of time practiced self-control and self-purification, for he will have noticed that the alteration in his circumstances has been in exact ratio with his altered mental condition. That I kind of can get behind. Yes. If you work on changing certain thought processes in your mind, you can matter-of-factly change your external world. If you commit yourself to not waking up in the morning and drinking coffee, and instead waking up and drinking a autumnal glass of chai because you'd like to lower your caffeine consumption, you can think it and then do it, right? And we can broaden that onto a more macro level, of course. Let me skip back here because this is a very, very long book. It's actually not that long of a book. Obviously, it's a long book to read on a brief YouTube video, rather, of course. The effect of thought on health and the body. The body is the servant of the mind. It obeys the operations of the mind, whether they be deliberately chosen or automatically expressed. At the bidding of unlawful thoughts, the body sinks rapidly into disease and decay. At the command of glad and beautiful thoughts, it becomes clothed with youthfulness and beauty. Health, like circumstances, are rooted in thoughts. Sickly thoughts will express themselves with a sickly body. Deep. I hope it's that easy. I'm running out of time, so I will bid you farewell. Have a lovely fall.